What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 2. Today we're starting with our division breakdowns. We're going to start with the new league, the new divisions that were posted. The Anaheim, Arizona, Colorado, Dallas, LA, San Jose, St. Louis, and Vegas. It's close to the divisions we were using. They switched out St. Louis and Minnesota. I think it's going to be pretty good. And NHL also released when the season's starting, so it's the 13th, I believe, 52 games, which is what we were saying. Like we said midway through January for 60 games. So
Yeah.
we hit that
Yeah.
pretty spot on.
It's in the ballpark.
We were pretty close. We were within 8 games. Let's jump right into it. We're gonna start with the Anaheim Ducks. So Anaheim Ducks in 2019-2020 weren't the greatest team out there. They finished with a record of 29-33 with 67 points. 29-33-9 with 67 points over 71 games. They were third last in the division. How do we think that they're going to do this year?
Not making the playoffs. That's for damn sure. I mean, like, who do you have? You have...
They got Getzlaf. Solid center there. That's a guy
They
that
added
you can
Shattenkirk in free agency. I like that.
Yeah, that's gonna move their team in great ways.
Yeah, but that's not like putting them over the edge by any means.
It's not putting them over the edge, but like if we look at their top 3 in points, Adam Hendrick, Richard Raquel, and Ryan Getzlaf. So Hendrick had 71 games, 26 goals, 17 assists for 43 points with a plus minus a -2. Raquel had 65 games for 15 goals, 27 assists, 42 points with a -5. And Getzlaf didn't have the Ryan Getzlaf year that we would think he had. He had 69 games with 13 goals, 29 assists, 42 points, and a -16 plus minus. Which, that's not like what we'd expect because Getzlaf's an all-star.
Yeah.
What are the Anaheim Ducks gonna have to do to succeed in this upcoming season?
If someone takes their contracts, I mean, like, I don't know how much there is for them to do this season. They still have not the greatest contract. I don't think there's much for them to do this year except maybe go after a high draft pick and then try and unload contracts next free agency. I don't know.
I guess it just really depends on who they pick up in the upcoming trades.
Yeah, I agree with Liam there. Like, a lot of trades going on this year will help them out a lot in their season. So I think trades and like a lot of playmaking.
Well, like just from looking at it doesn't seem like they have a lot of depth. Because if we look at it, so they're rounding out the top 4 in points is Jacob Silverberg with 39 points, and then it drops down to 29.
Yeah.
Right away, it goes from pretty much 40 down to 30, and it just keeps dropping like a rock after that. And you don't have a guy who's higher. It doesn't look like they have the team that's like that high scoring team who can produce quite a bit.
You have to look at the competition, wonder if they even have a fighting chance to get out of the division, which I'm sure we'll get to later, but I just don't see it this year.
I genuinely don't think the Ducks would make the playoffs this year. But we can also take a look at their goaltending. I don't think they've re-signed Ryan Miller, and I don't think they intend to. But their goaltending with John Gibson, he played 51 games with 20 wins, 26 losses, 5 OT losses, with a 3 goals against average, a save percentage of .904. Like, it's not bad, but it's not great. Like, they don't have a goaltender who's going to put up great numbers and have a steady season throughout the year.
Well, that's what a lot of teams seem to struggle with. They always go for the defenseman. They always go for the centerman, but they never consider getting a strong goaltender on their team.
What do you think a trade for the Anaheim Ducks would be? Like a good trade.
Draft picks to offload their not so good contracts. I mean, however many draft picks they can get in exchange for freeing up cap space. I don't know how many people would be interested in doing that, but that's what looks best for them. I wouldn't want to win this year if I'm Anaheim.
Well, who specifically would they want to offload?
That's the big question. Like, we don't know who they have to offload, and we don't know what their development in the system is. Like, obviously, some of the low guys. Like, so I'm just looking at last year's stats. Matt Irving, he played for them last year, put up horrific numbers. They let him go, didn't resign him. They got some strong guys and they got some young guys. It's just the pieces aren't falling into place, and I don't think that it's going to fall in place this next season. I think they're just going to have to sit in the back and then let the season become what it becomes.
What about David Backes? I don't know if they want to offload his contract. He's owed $4.5 million this year, unrestricted free agent next year. See if I can find his stats. I don't know.
That might be a good player to get rid of.
I think overall, I think you might be right, Matt. I think they just need to let this season play out before they can actually start getting some actual moves together.
I do agree with Bobby, because David Backes didn't put up great numbers. So do they trade him and try to get some young guys and develop in the system and maybe get next year or the year after like a solid season?
Or do they just try and offload for cap space next year? Because, I mean, what are you going to get for someone who put up,
Who played 6 games with only 3 assists?
Yeah. Like, what are you going to get for that besides offloading the money?
That's true. You just need
fair.
You're kind of in a situation where you just need the cap room.
Well, you lock yourselves in with Shattenkirk, $3.9 million a year through 2023.
I don't know, Paul. What do you think?
Honestly, like I'm not too sure. Like I don't personally know much about that team, so it's like I think they have to get rid of the players that have high games played and low points, the ones that aren't as effective. So like I would say leave those guys and then like focus on draft picks, because like with trades and stuff, no other team would want those players if they look at the stats. So draft picks is
That's
personally the
true,
best
but
way.
if you throw him in with like a decent guy, you could throw him in as a kicker and then make a deal just that much better.
Yeah.
And then again, if it's for a guy with a lower contract, you're going to be saving yourself some money. I think their best situation would be just wait it out, make some trades, try to get rid of some of their contracts, and then really make a push for 2022.
Yeah, I guess that is the smart thing to do.
Let's move on to Arizona. Arizona Coyotes. They've been a good team lately. Like, they've been a really solid team. They're losing a key player in Taylor Hall, which I'm happy about.
Right.
But they're losing a key player there. Like, it's a pretty good player, but they got a lot of depth in their lineup. They still got, they got Ekman Larson. They got Phil Kessel. They got Clayton Keller. They got Nick Schmelzik. Schmelz. If I messed up these names, I'm sorry.
Schmaltz.
And they still have goaltenders in Ronta, Hill, and Kumper. That they're good goalies. Like, those are solid goaltenders.
Yeah.
Just to look at their stats from last year.
Still have Phil Kessel.
Like they
Yeah,
have quite a
Kessel is definitely going to really carry that team this year, I think.
He didn't carry the team last year though, which
He's a solid contributor,
Oh,
he's
and I mean that's
he's a
all you could ask for.
consistent player. He's
Yeah.
not your all-star. He's not some dumpy guy. He's a consistent player. And I think that could be valuable for a team.
yeah, like I would not suggest for them to get rid of Phil.
I think see, I would agree with you, but Phil is a good guy to trade. Like
Really?
if we look at his stats, he played 70 games with 14 goals, 24 assists, 38 points, but a negative 21 plus minus, which I believe that's the worst on the team. It's the worst on the team by far from last year's stats.
yeah, it's way worse.
Do they
Like
trade him and maybe save some money and pick
Try and
up?
get a first or third round pick. I don't. Well, clearly not a first round pick, but maybe a third round pick. 'Cause I'm just looking on.
I'm thinking they pick up a decent player.
Yeah.
You throw in Phil Kessel, you get a solid guy who's got a ton of offense, maybe not the best defense, and then you just go for it. So if we look at Arizona's stats, they went 30-29-8, 30-29-8, finishing with 74 points. They finished fifth in the Pacific, and I don't know how they did in the playoffs. I don't think they were too good in the playoffs.
um
Well, didn't they finish like fifth overall in the Pacific Division?
Let's take a look.
I think they got
They
to
lost to Colorado.
In which round?
I think
I'm pretty sure
they beat
qualifying.
I think they didn't they beat qualifying?
I don't know. But we do know they didn't make too
No,
much
they made
money.
it the first round. First round, they lost to Colorado.
Yeah.
Well, if they finished fifth, then I would doubt that they got anywhere past the first round. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still, that's a step forward from Arizona from like 2 years ago where they were just the absolute joke of the NHL.
Exactly.
If we read out the stats, their top three, so Smalzik had 70 games with 11 goals, 34 assists for 45 points with a positive 3 plus minus. That's pretty good. Like that's that's a great player with consistency. And if we gave him a full season of 82 games, there's a 50 point guy.
Yeah.
He probably
Easily.
would have been close to 50 assists as well. Through those last 12 games.
Scoring 20 goals, maybe 82 games. I don't know. Does he
It
score
might
20
be
goals?
close because he had 11 goals over 70 games, which means he wasn't producing a lot of offense. But with the 34 assists, he was making a lot of opportunities for his other teammates, which is really really good. And that's the kind of guy you want on like your top line with one of your best guys. You throw in a good winger, your best center, and you throw this guy on the same line, you're gonna be just fine. Then if we move over to Clayton Keller, he had 70 games for 17 goals, 27 assists, 44 points. That's a pretty good season.
That's not bad.
It's a good season.
He's got the second most points on the team.
Yeah.
Much like our first guy, he seems to be creating more opportunities for his team. But he also had almost 20 goals, which that's very valuable. He's produced more offense, which is great. And we take a drop off, and their third guy had less than 40 points, but they had a ton of guys who were over 30 points, which is really good. It means they got a steady, consistent bunch that can produce 30 points consistently in a year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's Arizona gonna have to do to make it to like the second or third round?
I wonder if it's worth it if I'm being honest, if you're Arizona, you look in a division, you have St. Louis, Dallas, Colorado, Vegas. Is it really worth the trouble to make it into the playoffs, knowing that you'll have first, at best, second round exit in the playoffs? And I'm looking at this. They lost their first round. They lost their third round pick next draft. Wait, no. First round pick next draft after violating the combine testing policy. So is it worth it for them to really go through all the trouble to make the playoffs?
I know Arizona, yeah, like maybe pick up some picks, but I think they should build on the gifted opportunity of making it to the playoffs. Like they had a positive record. Like they should use that opportunity and just go for it. And like now's their time. They should just go for it. They did have that one draft pick who was like extremely racist and bullied kids in
Oh, right.
middle school.
What was his
And
name
like
again?
I don't even know. But like there's a draft pick that you
Best
lose.
not to remember it, I guess.
There's a draft pick that you lose. So do you bring a prospect up from your system to replace that? But on the same time, is he going to be as good as the guy you drafted? It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. But I think them being gifted, and if we do have an expanded format, they should just go for it. Like they have a chance to just go for it and really make a push.
Yeah, well, I mean, Matt, like you said, they've been on the up and up for the last 2 years or so. Why ruin that the momentum that they're building there?
Like if we look at it, they were only 5 points behind third in the division. Like they're right there with the Flames and Canucks for third in the division, and with those last 12 games that we missed, something could have happened to either of those teams. Like both those teams are consistent, but we never know. They could have choked. Arizona could have came up. Anything could have happened. But I think it's Arizona's time, and you know what? They've been down for so long. They just got to go for it.
I agree with that. And just I think now is the time to act for them.
They do have a pretty solid team. They just.
I mean, I doubt if they'll get past the second round, but still, if they do get to the second round, that's one more round than they made last year.
No playoffs.
Exactly.
I agree with that. I don't think they're going to be contending with like a Tampa Bay
or
a Vegas or a Dallas. They're not going to like contend with them, but anything could happen.
Yeah.
Like the Blue Jackets swept Tampa 2 years ago.
Yeah, fair enough.
Arizona could come out, stun the world, and just kick ass in the playoffs. We don't know.
They do have like a pretty all-balanced team. Like a lot of their players are around the same points, but like it is like, or it's around like the 30-40 point range.
Exactly,
So,
and
like,
if we can,
the most like really good teams like Tampa and stuff like that, they have like higher average points. So I think they will definitely be a contender, yeah.
And if we compare it to Arizona's points, like these guys are all the same range. Arizona had that steep drop off from 40 down to below 30, and then just kept going down and down and down. They weren't like all in this one nice spot. So I think Arizona has the pieces. And if we go down, look at goaltending. Ranta played the most games for them. He had 33 games. He went 15 and 14 with 3 OT losses and a 2.63 goals against average with a 921 save percentage. That's much better than anyone on the Ducks that we just saw. Like this team could go somewhere within the next 2-3 years, maybe even this year.
Definitely.
It's definitely possible.
I think
they just need to play their cards right.
In terms of hanging around waiting for draft picks, Arizona doesn't need to do that anymore. They just got to go out and do what they do.
Yeah, I mean, again, they've been building up so much momentum. They've been getting so many good players. May as well go all out right now.
Then we're gonna move on to the next team on the list, Colorado Avalanche. I'm just getting their stats up real quick. They did really good in the playoffs last year. They went.
They've got
Well,
five
they got
players that
beat by
have more than
Dallas.
40 points.
They got beat by Dallas in the second round, but
They cleared
again,
40 wins.
yeah, like again, the Colorado Avalanche have been one of those teams who've been down, 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 and like they just picked it up last year. They did really, really good. They finished with. I'm just pulling up the record. They finished second in the Central Division. They went 42-20 with 92 points.
In a shortened season, nonetheless.
That right there, that is a playoff contender.
Yeah.
That is a team. That sounds like a team that can go somewhere. That sounds like a team that can be like Dallas, go all the way. But I don't necessarily think win the whole thing yet. I don't think the Avalanche are just there, but I think they'll be close.
I think they could go for it, honestly.
I'd like to see them try. I don't know. I mean, they have the Calder. Kyle McCarr won Calder Trophy last year, and he's going into his second year. I really don't see how they get any worse than last year.
Well, I mean, I think they'll definitely hit the playoffs, but I mean, maybe they need a couple more years before they can actually win the whole thing. But last year they really showed the world what they could do, and personally, I'm very excited to see what they're going to accomplish this season.
I think they can actually go pretty far this year because, like, and they have like for their top player they have Nathan
McKinnon.
Yeah, McKinnon. He has 69 games played and 93 points. So he's basically like carrying that team far. And like the next person, Makar, he has 57 games played and 50 points. So yeah, about 10 games less, but like that's still a huge jump in points. And then the rest of the team is basically constantly like going down till about like halfway or so.
They have a much. I mean, as terms of some of the other teams on our list, like we just covered Anaheim and Arizona. These guys easily outclass them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like easily, like we're playoff lock. They're guaranteed to make it to the second round.
Yeah. I mean, they've got 5 players that have over 40 points, which is more than any of the teams we've seen before.
Yeah.
Like they got a good lineup. Like if you just look at this, Kadri, Rantanen, Makar, McKinnon, Bobrovsky, like those are all big names, and those are all big players who can have a really good positive impact on this team. And I think Colorado's got a pretty good shot. If we move down to their goaltending, they got Hutchinson, they got Grobert, who was their starter, and then they played a few, and then they got Francouz. I think that's how you say his name. Grobert was their starter for the season. So he had 36 games, 18 wins, 12 losses, 4 OT losses, with a .263 goals against average and a .916 save percentage. That's a good goalie right there.
Yeah.
That's a solid. You can put him out there and he'll do a good job.
He perform.
Probably will have his bumps, but like that's a goalie who will perform, and you can rely on him. And they got Michael Hutchinson in there too. That's another goalie that hasn't been top of the conversation, but Michael Hutchinson's a good goalie.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like all of their players, from a centerman, right wing, left wing, and even down to goaltender, it seems like all of them are pretty well rounded and very capable.
But there's one thing though that you can't, like, from what I see, like Hutchinson is a good goalie, but like with the stats, it says he only has like 1 game played, so you can't really like fully say that like like how he is because he only has one game, .944 save percentage. Like that is good, but like
He did
again,
spend
it's
most. He
not a
spent
whole.
most of his season with the Leafs the year before, though.
I don't
So,
know about
He was
so
their
in
backup, I
Fair.
think.
yeah, he was the backup. Didn't produce the best stats. He had 16 games, 5 wins, 9 losses, with a 3.7 goals against average and an 8.8 save percentage. Um, it's not great when you look at it, but
It's better than other places, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we'll cover other teams over the next few weeks who wish their goaltending situation was like the Avalanche.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
And
he
given the amount of
hasn't.
talent everywhere else on the roster, I mean, how much are you expecting of your goalie?
He hasn't had a great hasn't had a great time in the NHL because when he played with Winnipeg, he split time. He was like sometimes goalie, like sometimes starter, sometimes not. Do we want to start him? Maybe not. And then they brought up all these young guys and then they just chucked him to the Leafs. His last good season was 2014-2015, where he played 38 games, went 21-10 with 5 OT losses. He had 2.38 goals against average and a 914 save percentage. Everything else he's been negative. But then again, he doesn't have the playing numbers in any of those seasons that he saw when he started for Winnipeg. Does Colorado kickstart his career again, or is he just going to be trade bait?
Well, you also need to remember that Colorado also has 3 other goalies on their team, and you know we can see them perform a lot better than he has, especially recently.
I think Michael Hutchinson is going to be trade bait. Because he's a solid goaltender and he can perform when you need him to. He's not an all-star. He's not the greatest, but when you need a solid start, he'll be there. I think he'll be pretty good trade bait for maybe some defense if they need it. I don't think they have a problem with offense, but I do think they might bring in some defense. And like William said, they got a bunch of other goalies, and I don't really think they need them.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I'm looking forward to what the Avalanches are going to do. I think they're going to go far this year.
I think they're going to be a big contender. They're
Honestly,
going to contend.
I know we've only looked at 3 teams, but they're the best ones we've looked at so far, in my opinion.
The best out of those 3 teams, in the division they played, they were one of the top 2. They only finished second to the Blues by 2 points, and
The Blues have lost Pietrangelo, which I'm
yeah,
sure we'll
there's
get
a
to
big
later
key.
on in our list.
There's a big key the Blues have lost, but I think with those last 12 games they would have beat the Blues.
Yeah.
I think they had them. They were right there. They were contending. I think they had them all on their sights. Move on a little down in the lists. The Dallas Stars. They went to the Stanley Cup. This is one of my teams where I think they're gonna win the whole thing. Yeah. Dallas got robbed last year. They got robbed last year, but Tampa Bay was by far the better team.
Yeah.
Oh, Tampa Bay was just.
It's a shame what happened because I would have liked to see Dallas
they ever played.
I don't think Tampa's gonna go back, and that's gonna open the door for Dallas to try to go back to the finals. They got top guys: Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn, Haskinen, Radulov. Those are all big names. Like Tyler Seguin, 50 points. Jamie Benn, 39 points. Haskinen, 35 points. Solid big names that are producing quite a lot. And if you move down to their goaltending, they got Bishop and they got Anton Kondabin. I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Khudobin.
Is
their goalkeeper?
He was the starter in the Stanley Cup Finals, and he's their backup. Ben Bishop played majority of the games, and Ben Bishop's a huge name. He's an amazing goaltender. He had 44 games, 21 wins, 16 losses, 4 OT losses, a 2.5 goals against average, and a 920 save percentage. And Anton had 30 games, 16 wins, 8 losses, 4 OT losses, with a 2.2 goals against average and a 930 save percentage. Both of those are excellent goaltenders.
Well, good news. They have them through 2023, both of them, because they re-signed Kudobin this offseason.
Right, he was
So
one of their.
they're solid for
guy.
years to come at goalkeeping.
He was.
Do they only have 2 goalies?
They got more in their system that just haven't played last year. But this also shows that the shorter the list, the less, like, when we're on looking at stats, the shorter the list of goaltenders, the less need for them.
Which is a good thing.
So if you start like 5 or 6 goalies throughout the year, it means you're fishing for goalies and you're trying to find something new because they're just not working. When you start 2 guys consistently, that's amazing. And both these guys stayed healthy and they just played excellent hockey. And like that's really the base point that a hockey team needs is a great goalie behind excellent players like Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn. Just to pull up the record from last year, the Dallas Stars. Dallas Stars finished third in the Central with 37 wins, 24 losses, 8 OT losses, and 82 points. Middle of the road, not the greatest. But then you move
just below having 2/3 of their games played be wins. That's not exactly middle of the road.
If you move
like they were a
it's
good
about
team
middle of the
last
road
year.
because the other teams are averaging like the other teams 82, 80, 77. About middle of the road for the division. And then you move over to the playoffs. Like they beat Calgary the first round. Then they go on and beat the Avalanche. And then they beat Vegas, who was a favorite to win that series. And they still put up a hard-fought series against Tampa, even though they had some guys playing through injury.
I mean, they took Tampa to 6 games, considering all the other solid teams on our list that we've been through. I don't know. I like Dallas. I really do. Like, the contract situation looks good. This is going to be a good team for years to come. They shouldn't have any reason to worry this year.
I definitely think they will make the finals, like either this year or next year. I think they'll make it again.
I think their finals team, at least Western Conference. Western Conference, I think, is a safer spot to put them. But they're a team that I think is going to go really far, especially because I don't think Tampa's got it this year. Like, they've done some dealing, and I don't think they got that all-star team that they did last year. It's going to be really interesting to see what's going to happen.
Dallas definitely has the spirit. It's just they need to make sure they have the manpower to back it up as well.
And it does look like they do have that manpower.
I mean, they don't have bad players. There's a lot of favorites on that team. I'm just wondering if they have enough.
We didn't even talk. Corey Perry's there too, and they still got Pavlovsky, and I think that's really it for the big names. But like those are all solid players, and some of those guys are all-stars.
Like, you'd have a hard time finding bad players with bad contracts. Like, if you have a bad player, chances are they don't have as big of a contract, so it'd be easy to deal them out if need be. Like, this is a well-built team, considering others on our list.
Yeah, I think that this team will go really far. Let's move on. One team I don't want to talk about, but we gotta do it. The LA Kings.
LA Kings.
Yikes.
They're not going to do anything.
Oh my!
They haven't done anything for the last few years now. As soon as they won the Stanley Cup, they just dropped right off the map. Like,
They went from winning the Stanley Cup to finishing 7th in the Pacific Division.
Let's just look at their
What a
stats.
downgrade.
Yeah, these stats
Pacific
are
Division, 29 wins, 35 losses, 6 OT losses for 64 points. It's not good. Didn't make the playoffs. Which, it happens. But they weren't going to make it even in a regular season. Kopitar finished the season with 21 goals, 41 assists, 62 points. And then you got Dustin Brown, Drew Doughty, Toffoli, all up there. 30-point range. And then you just drop right off. And you get you get a lot of guys with single-digit points. And especially below 20 points.
Ooh, yeah.
they don't have many players above the 20-point mark, which isn't a good thing.
And their
What would they
goaltender.
get if they? Sorry, what would they get if they tried to deal these players? I mean, what's the reason they would still be holding on to any of these guys, really?
Because Kopitar and Doughty, I would keep Doughty. Solid
Yeah.
defender. When you have
Anyone else?
when you got Doughty in your top 4, that's good. You can't really let him go. It's really, really difficult to let go a superstar like that.
Yeah, I mean, keep around the superstars, keep around everyone who makes a team what it is. But as far as the Kings aren't going to be doing anything, what's stopping them from putting anyone on the table to go after picks?
Yeah, I mean, they could. You're right, Bobby. They could just offer up one of their star players in hopes to get something better.
Youth picks.
I don't think we should talk about picks for the Kings. I think they're gonna go for players. The season hasn't started. No one's gonna want picks right now. We're gonna have to wait later in the season to find picks. I think they're gonna try to go for some pretty good guys. I think they need a goaltender though.
What are their goaltenders like?
Jonathan Quick and Jake Campbell. Jake Campbell's a good.
Jack Campbell.
Right, sorry, Jack Campbell. He's a good backup. Jonathan Quick's an all-star, but he's been falling off these last few years.
Yeah, their team should still be good, but they're just falling off.
He had 16 wins, 22 losses, with a 2.79 goals against average, and a 9.4 save percentage. But that doesn't scream to me that he's a bad goalie. That screams to me that their defense isn't there.
Yeah.
Because he's putting up good numbers, but it just seems like the teams that they're playing against, they just get two really good high quality chances that he can't always save. So maybe instead of going for a goalie, try to get some defenders in, strengthen up the defense, and then you can start branching out and making that offense go better.
I think you're right. Yeah, because just looking at their defense, a lot of them are below 20 points.
But you're not expecting points from your defense. You want them. It's more so assists. You want their plus minus to stay above 1. That means just fewer goals, and a lot of them are below 1. They got -21, -10, -16, -11, -10.
-5.
Few there's some room for improvement defensive wise there, definitely, when you're just looking at all these negative numbers. Do the LA Kings finish last, or are we going to put them higher in this division?
They seem the most likely to finish last.
They finished ahead of San Jose and below Anaheim.
Well, they're not finishing ahead of San Jose again.
Just looking at the division, would we I think it's fair to say that they'll be last.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair assumption.
I would say last or second again.
Their future looks good, but if we're asking for this year, I think it's pretty safe to say they're not doing anything.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Moving on, probably in my opinion, the biggest disappointment of the besides Buffalo, because I had high hopes, but the biggest disappointment was San Jose finishing last. Like
Oh yeah,
a
they
couple
did.
years ago, San Jose Sharks, they were championship contenders, and then they just completely fell off this year.
They
Didn't
made the
make
finals a few years ago, didn't they? Stanley
either
Cup
that or
Finals?
either that or Nashville beat them. I can't remember that. But
No, I think they made it to the finals against Pittsburgh.
oh yeah, they did. They did.
No, the one year they made it to the finals against Pittsburgh.
And now they've fallen off completely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If we look
Yeah.
at
Really similar to the Kings.
just pulling up their stats. 29, 36, and 5 for 63 points. 1 point below the Kings. Not great.
Yikes.
I'm always the type of guy who throws San Jose into the picture of a playoff team, but really they weren't.
A fully healthy San Jose is a playoff team. That much is clear.
I'm just looking at some of these stats. So like Erik Karlsson's up there, Brett Burns up there. Those two
Keep 'em there.
defensemen are in your top 4 for points. That's not great. But then again, they're all stars too.
They're all 40 points. The top 4 is 40 points.
Yeah, top 4 is all 40 points, and
Yeah, but they all.
you got quite a few 30-point guys. Their plus minus is pretty bad. Like Brett Burns is negative 22.
Yeah.
Erik Karlsson is a negative 15. Kevin LeBlanc is a negative 33.
Yikes.
Like, is this a defense problem and not a scoring issue?
It's a health problem, if anything else, because how many guys did they have battling through injury last year? Which is the only reason why they finished so badly.
I mean, that is a fair point.
I will never chalk up this team to being bad until they're a fully healthy team and just get slapped by someone in the playoffs.
If you look at
And
some
I'd
of
be
these
willing to
names,
look at
They were at a
that way.
disadvantage from the start.
Yeah.
if you look at these names, like they're good. It's a good team. Evander Kane, Brett Burns, Carlson, and
Yeah,
then
but I feel like that's
Or
only what they
Thomas
have.
Hurdle.
Like, yeah, they've got these guys, but then
they had
you know,
Marlowe, and their big one was Joe Thornton, but he's gone to Toronto now. How's that going to shape up the team? You lose your big guy in Joe Thornton. Like, that's a huge name. You're losing them. Does that affect the team morale?
oh, 100%, definitely. I would
Definitely.
say. Especially if coaches don't believe that some of these other guys aren't capable enough.
He's been with San Jose since 2005. Like, he's played so many games for them, and now for him to go up and walk to Toronto so late in his career, I mean, like, yeah, it's a new era for the organization.
Is
Wow.
that a sign? Is that a sign if I'm planning on retiring soon, though? Like, is he
Without a
trying?
doubt.
Is he trying to get to a team where he can have one good push and try to get a Stanley Cup?
Without a doubt, I could not see him playing past
Yeah.
the season.
Why is he going to Toronto though if he wants to win a Stanley Cup?
Exactly.
Yeah, I will not argue with
we're gonna
that.
leave this breakdown. Toronto's a good team.
Let's leave Toronto until the Canadian Division
We're
podcast.
gonna
for
leave.
me to
We're gonna
really
leave
get
it.
riled up.
We'll put
Yeah,
a pin
yeah,
in this
that's-
topic. But Toronto's a good
Toronto will
team.
get its
They
time.
got
40
the guys. They just
Well,
don't
he's
have.
41. I could see him retiring after this season.
I could
41, I'd say so.
see. I
Yeah.
think he's on a 1-year contract. I don't think he'll last long. And San Jose, let's move over to the goaltenders. Martin Jones, Aaron Dell, not great. Really not great. Those are both backup names in my opinion. Their starter, Martin Jones, 17 wins, 21 losses, 2 OT losses. They both had over 3 goals against average. And save percentage for Martin Jones was .896. Like, it just sounds like backup numbers. It sounds like a guy where you want to give your starter a break. You bring this guy in. doesn't sound like championship numbers there. Do they trade up some big names for a goaltender?
That could be a viable strategy. They definitely need some.
If they're looking to
some better
rebuild, I think they
goalies in
have
there.
bigger issues than their goaltender.
I think their goaltender is a pretty big issue there. Like they just don't have.
How long are they gonna? Like,
All
how
of
long
their
are they gonna be
goal.
content to leave their goaltender the way it is?
Just looking at these stats, I don't
He's
think
signed through 2025. Martin
I don't
Jones.
think they're gonna last with these goaltenders though.
Well, clearly they're not going to last, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone because he's owed $5.7 million a year through 2025. I'd welcome you to find someone who's willing to take that contract,
Like
given his stats.
clearly, there's a defensive problem.
Yeah,
Clearly.
obviously.
Definitely.
But do they throw tons of money to fix that, or do they get a solid goaltender and then start putting in a little more, knowing that as they're building up their defense, they still got something strong behind them?
Well, it seems like they are left with kind of a choice to decide whether or not to beef up their defenseman or their goaltender.
Beef up their defensemen. I wouldn't want to blame this on a goalkeeper just yet.
Yeah.
Like, he needs a chance to prove himself properly with a good defense.
Well, let's look at some of Martin Jones' stats over the years. So the last 2 years, he's had below 900 for save percentage. He's sitting at about a 3 goals against average. Isn't too good, isn't too bad. 36 wins last year, or in 2018, 2019. So between that time, their defense dropped. It's clear to see that with all the negative numbers, their defense dropped, and like it's putting a lot on these goaltenders.
Apart from 2015, he's a winning goalkeeper since he came into the league, especially through those like good San Jose teams.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I wouldn't throw him in like an all-star, superstar category because I think an all-star.
I'm not putting him under bust yet.
I think he's just a moderate goaltender though, because like a great goalie is a goalie who can put up decent numbers with pretty bad defense, and like just.
Well, yeah, we're not saying he's trash, but like I don't want to say he's trash. I don't want to say he's that good. I don't want to say he's good, but I'm not willing to blame the San Jose season on their goalkeeping yet.
No,
well, Bobby, it's like you said beforehand.
Defense, but I wouldn't want to trade Martin Jones just yet.
But it's like you said beforehand, Bobby. They didn't really get a chance to prove themselves just because the defensemen were just not on their game.
Mm-hmm. So I think they should keep it. They should run it back with good health and then see what happens.
I don't think the San Jose Sharks are going to make the playoffs.
No,
if they don't have the defense, they don't have the defense. You know, offense wins games, defense wins championships. They do not have the defense to go to the.
I can get behind that assessment.
Yeah, personally, like I think like with Burns and Carlson, like those are great Ds. Like they're great, but they're very offensive, and which makes like when they're on the ice, like if they push up, it means that like they're forwards who have to go back and defend with the goalie. So that could have an effect on the his stats too. The goalie stats.
We got 2 teams left. Let's move on to the Blues. St. Louis Blues, playoff contender, obviously.
Let me start off by asking this: what are the St. Louis Blues doing in the Pacific Division? They do not seem like they belong there.
Realignment. You got to put them somewhere. Like you got to find it's closest teams to the West. You stick them in the Pacific Division.
Yeah, but it seems like Minnesota would have been a better choice for that even.
I don't know what their reasoning was. I think they're just trying to make it balanced and like trying to
rivalries, make the Pacific more interesting. Because I like the Pacific with the St. Louis Blues.
So if we look at their stats last year, they had 42 wins, 19 losses, 10 OT losses, 94 points, first in the Central. They're coming off a Stanley Cup from 2 years ago, which amazing season, played it great.
And unlike the Kings, they didn't just win it and then decided to stop trying. They've been pretty consistent.
Yeah.
I mean, not consistent enough to win another Stanley Cup, but still, they're doing pretty good for themselves.
If we
They're
look at
good.
it, if we look at their playoffs last year, though, they went out in the first round to Vancouver. Is it a turning point for St. Louis where they're not going to be a contender?
I don't think the turning point was losing to Vancouver. I think the turning point, if anything, will be losing Pietrangelo to Vegas.
That's a huge loss. Pietrangelo, an excellent. It was me why they've let. So if we look at their top three, we got O'Reilly, Perron, and Shen. So O'Reilly had 12 goals, 49 assists for 61 points. Perron had 60 points, and Shen had 58. Like they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys with over 50 points.
But take one of those out because 52 points is Pietrangelo.
Oh yeah.
Well, then you got Robert Thomas at 42. You got Stanford at 30. Guess it drops off a bit from there, but if you're looking for a team with talent on the top end, I mean, you got it in the Blues.
And they got goaltenders.
Mm-hmm.
I love goaltenders. They got Jordan Binnington, Jake Allen. Excellent goaltenders. Like, Jordan Binnington had 30 wins, 13 losses, 7 OT losses, 2.5 goals against average, and a save percentage of 912. An all-star. Excellent goaltender. Do they get rid of Jake Allen for the loss of Pietrangelo and get someone for defense?
It seems like too big of a risk, honestly. He seems like a pretty solid player all around.
Jake Allen
had 12.
I wouldn't want them to.
He's a good goaltender, but that's the problem. They have an all-star in Binnington. Do they get rid of Allen and try to replace the Pietrangelo they just lost? Do they go out and try to find someone who's going to be like the next Alex Pietrangelo?
If I'm St. Louis, sorry, go ahead, Liam, or whoever's speaking.
Well, no, I was just saying that again, like that. It seems too risky. Like you have a good player with you, so why would you trade him for someone to get someone else who may not be as good?
That is true.
Like you have the gold. Why are you going to sell it for possibly getting a diamond?
Because they already got it. Like, they got the superstar in Binnington, so why do they need Allen? Like, why are you going to pay this guy a big contract when you could be paying a big contract to a defenseman to fill up Pietrangelo?
Well, especially since Jordan Binnington comes up for unrestricted free agency this coming free agency. He has 1 season left on his contract for over $4 million. Clearly, he's getting a raise. So, I mean, what do you do in terms of cap space?
If Binnington wasn't there, keep Allen. I think because Bennington's there, get rid of Allen.
Oh, yeah.
Get someone for defense.
Jake Allen is not someone you want as a backup. Like, he's capable of starting his own team, which is what you should trade him on.
Well, we were just talking about San Jose not having a goaltender. Why not sell Jake Allen to San Jose? Well, I suppose because they don't really have good defense there. That you might not want to.
Well, I mean, you get good players for Jake Allen, but don't rush it.
But it's trade bait. It's good bait. If he consistently puts up good numbers, great goalie. like trade him. Get some money, get a good defenseman. There you go. Like it's pretty good.
Replace Petrangelo.
I think the key for the St. Louis Blues is you got to replace Alexander Petrangelo.
I don't know.
Also,
man.
I hate that we forgot to do this, but we totally forgot about Torrey Krug, who they brought in.
San
Torrey
Jose.
Krug.
Wait, no,
Or-
he's their replacement. Torrey Krug signed, I think, 7 years,
Oh yeah, with the
6.5 million a
Blues. Yeah, we
year.
didn't talk about
I
Torrey Krug.
completely forgot about that.
But I still don't think he's an Alexander Petrangelo level guy. It's a good defenseman.
Well, I mean, if you're looking for a replacement, you certainly got one.
Oh, you certainly got a good defender.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think there's still more that they could do there, especially with Jake Allen. Like I think they could use him for trade bait, get some good players, and then be that championship team that they were a few years ago.
I mean, they're not having a decline like the Kings or the Sharks anytime soon. They're still elite.
Now, last but not least, this is my favorite to go to Stanley Cup Finals. Las Vegas Golden Knights. They went 39-24, 8 OT losses, 86 points, top of their division. They got excellent goaltenders in Robin Leonard and Marc-Andre Fleury. And they got great players in Pacioretty, Mark Stone, Smith, Jonathan
Marchessault,
Marchessault.
Carlson. This list just goes on and on.
Yeah.
Damn.
But
Add Alex Petrangelo to this list. Let's not forget
we're gonna
that.
you gotta add in Alex Petrangelo. That's good. But now let's throw in the surprise topic here. The Knights want to get rid of Pacioretty. They want to deal Fleury, and they want to deal Marchessault. It was in today that those guys are going to be on the trade block and they're going to be trade bait. Is it stupid?
What are they after?
They just said that they'd be open to it.
They'd be open to it, but what's the haul they're looking for?
I have no idea why in hell you would get rid of Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yeah.
I don't know why in hell you get rid of Max Pacioretty.
Like, that's your top goal scorer.
Signed through 2024.
Top goal scorer, most in points. And Marchessault is top 4. And then it's Marc-Andre Fleury. Like, what else is there to say? It's Marc-Andre Fleury, and you want to get rid of him.
It's not
I
like
would
these
like to
guys
see-
are threatening to walk in free agency. They're locked in for a few more years. I don't understand why the hell you try to trade them.
I would like to see Fleury go to Montreal.
For who?
For Carey Price, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeez, what inspired you to make that trade, Paul?
Price is on its downfall, and Fleury's still really good. So
You better attach a couple picks to those. Las Vegas is
But,
laughing
like,
at you.
Paul said it right there. The big reason to keep Fleury, he's still good. He's still Marc-Andre Fleury. Like, he does what he does. He had 27 wins, 16 losses, 5 OT losses, 2.77 goals against average, and a 905 save percentage. Like, Marc-Andre Fleury, excellent goalie.
Marc-Andre Fleury's 36. Maybe that has something to do with it.
But his age isn't slowing him down. It could be something to do with it. It could be that Robin Leonard is a great, solid goalie, and they want to have him there still.
and they don't need Fleury, and then they won't need Fleury.
You start Marc-Andre Fleury over Robin Leonard any day of the week.
Yeah, easily.
That
They
much is
did-
clear.
They did try him out. They tried to Leonard. He played 3 games with what? So he played 3 games with the Knights. He won all 3. Kicked ass in all 3.
Yeah.
He spent most of his season with Chicago, and he went 16-10 with a 3 goals against average and a 918 save percentage. And then in the last 3 games he had with Vegas, he went 3-0 with a 167 goals against average and a 940. save percentage. I don't think he's enough. Like
No.
he wasn't great in Buffalo, but that's because he had alcohol problems. He dealt with his alcohol problems, and then he became a star. He blew up for the Islanders in 2018, 2019. Like, and then he just kind of he dropped off with Chicago. But is that because it's Chicago and they weren't a great team?
Still went 16-10 with 5 overtime losses in Chicago. I mean, it's not terrible.
It's good, but my big thing is his goals against average is a little higher than his previous seasons. Like, what is he enough to replace Marc-Andre Fleury?
No.
Yeah, I don't think the trade is worth
No.
it.
If you sign Pietrangelo, like you deal with Marc-Andre Fleury when the problem arises, but you're not like jumping out of the gun to trade him now. Like I do not see why you'd ever do that.
I don't think you should.
No.
I think you should milk. If Fleury was on the down low like Carey Price and Jonathan Quick, I'd say chuck him and see what you get for him because the name sells. But he's a solid goaltender, one of the best. I would argue to say he's probably the best goaltender in the league right now.
Seriously?
No. I'd argue Vasilevsky.
Vasilevsky's. I'm sticking with Marc-Andre Fleury.
Nah.
I wouldn't give
He's
up.
Well, he's top 3.
Yeah.
He's top
Right,
3 goalie. Maybe that's what they're trying to get, a good trade haul for a top 3 goalie in the league.
Yeah, Matt, we know you got a crush on this McFlurry guy, but I don't think he's the
McFlurry.
best
The
of the
fact
best.
that you just called him McFlurry. Oh God. Everyone's gonna be pissed at you now. Like
Good time,
Fleury's one of the top goalies, and I don't think you should get rid of him just yet. Let's open the floor to you guys. Rank the division. What do you think is gonna be first to last? Who wants to start it off?
It's pretty hard to rank considering that like you've got a mix of some like pretty all-star teams mixed with some of the worst that have performed last year.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start this
Bobby,
off.
you're gonna start off. Start it off.
All right. Kings, Ducks.
No, from first to last, not last
first
to
to
first.
last.
No,
Okay. Colorado, Vegas. I'm going Dallas, St. Louis, San Jose, Arizona, Anaheim, Kings.
Colorado to win the whole thing.
I have best in the division. No, I have Colorado. Because like these players, the stats they have last year, they're still getting better.
That's true. Paul, Liam, which one of you guys?
I guess I can go. To me, I'd say Colorado, Vegas, St. Louis, Dallas, Arizona, Anaheim, and Los Angeles.
Or about San Jose?
Oh, San Jose is below LA.
Really?
Yeah,
I could see it. I could see it again. I think they're gonna beat LA this year. I think just because the season was cut short, they didn't. But yeah, I could see that. Paul?
I can see Colorado, Vegas, Dallas, St. Louis, probably Arizona, Anaheim. I don't know. I'm with the last 4. I'm still kind of confused, but I'd probably say Arizona, Anaheim, Sharks, and then LA.
I feel like what I'm gonna say is just gonna be completely stupid now.
Well, in that case, don't say it.
No, please. We need a different opinion.
I'm gonna say Vegas, Dallas, Colorado, St. Louis, Arizona, then Anaheim, Sharks, Kings. Because like
Okay.
if you look at it, like
This is not exactly the hardest division to predict by any means.
no,
No,
that's why we're starting with
no.
them. We're gonna keep getting
Like-
better and better.
like we have the same top four,
Oh, yeah.
or like top 2.
Oh no, not with
Vegas
Matt.
and the
Well,
Avalanche.
top four is the
No,
same.
my
Like,
top two are
four is
completely
making the
different.
playoffs.
Like you guys all said Colorado. I think Colorado's third.
I don't know. I have a lot of faith in Colorado this year.
Yeah, I honestly
I
do
think
too.
they can do good.
They seem
but
the most capable out of
I got
any
the
of the
most.
teams.
I got the most faith in.
They're the
them.
least changed. There's not as many questions with Colorado.
That's true. I just got a lot of faith in
Yeah,
Vegas,
yeah.
especially because in the playoffs. Well,
They
they
missed-
beat
yeah.
Chicago. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And they beat Vancouver, which was a pretty good team. And like they just barely lost to Dallas. But like I think adding Petrangelo, like, it's gonna add some depth. If they get rid of Fleury and Pacioretty, they're done.
Yeah.
Pacioretty's most likely gonna go, but like I think they could do without him. Bringing in Petrangelo, it's gonna be really interesting.
I seriously hope they don't mess with that team. As a hockey fan, I would hate it if Vegas messed with the team they have going.
Like
They have a
it's
good
great team. It's an excellent team. That's really like that's so there's our first division. I think like that's gonna be a pretty good division. Some pretty bad teams, some pretty good teams. It's gonna be a bit of a mix. The
Much better with
rankings
Sam Bones.
the rankings
much better
seem
with
pretty
Sims, yeah.
obvious.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like this was a good division to start out with. A lot of the teams seem pretty cut and dry.
Next week we're gonna deal with Carolina, Columbus, Detroit, Chicago, Florida, Minnesota, Nashville, and Tampa. That'll be interesting. At the end of the video, I'll throw in the teams. Comment down below, or message us. What if you agree with our list? What division you think is going to be the best? Comment down the list of your own and see what you think. Other than that, episode 2 went really good.
Yeah. Please,
Um,
everyone, comment down below how much you hate me for pronouncing it McFlurry.
I'm pissed. Like,
Why? Just why'd you have
I'll
to
be
say
the
that?
first comment.
Because I knew it would piss you
hungry,
off.
That's why he wants McDonald's. I'm pissed. Like I'm fuming.
He's announcing a new partnership with McDonald's. From here on, he's going to be called McFlurry.
the Marc-Andre McFlurry. I would buy that.
It's like the Travis Scott burger, except it's a McFlurry.
We bringing in the Travis Scott burger into that.
Yeah.
We got some pretty big things coming into the podcast. I was thinking, I haven't thrown this out there to you guys, Fantasy Hockey League. Are you gonna do that?
Yes.
That could be fun.
I will be absolute trash at this, but I will love to do fantasy hockey.
I'm thinking Fantasy Hockey League, and we open it up to everyone on Instagram and everyone who's watching these, and we'll put in, like, I'll work out the kinks and everything, make it up, and we'll get that started before the season goes.
New Year sometime? Like in the New Year, like within the 2 weeks before the season, I think.
2 weeks before the season.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get it
Okay.
set up.
Drop it on
And
like
who knows? Like
January
maybe the winner could get something. Like ask us a question on the podcast, or we call them and say something. Who knows? We'll figure it out.
Yep. Could be a guest.
Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Comment, like, subscribe. We're on Spotify now at Drop the Puck Podcast.
That's right.
And we hope to see you guys active everywhere. Follow us on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, and be ready for anything. We throw out really weird opinions,
Yep.
like McFlurry, and
Fuck that.
we always have.
You
Something
never
to
know
say
what
about,
you're going to hear on this podcast.
We always have something to say about hockey. Thanks for listening.